Girl asks Billionaire to teach her how to pray like a father because her little sister is sick, and his response moves everyone. The elevator descended in silence. Benjamin adjusted his Italian tie and checked his watch. 7:40 in the evening. Another day ending just like the others. Meetings, numbers, deals closed. His reflection in the elevator's mirror showed a 42-year-old man at the peak of financial success, but there was something empty in his brown eyes. The doors opened onto the ground floor of Torres & Associates. Benjamin crossed the marble lobby with firm steps, greeted the doorman with a curt nod, and pushed through the revolving door. The October night breeze hit his face, carrying the typical big city smell, car exhaust mixed with street food. 3 years. It had been exactly 3 years since he buried his mother. 3 years since he had stopped believing in anything beyond spreadsheets and profits. The pain had hardened something inside him, like cement that dries and never softens again. Benjamin walked to his black BMW parked in its reserved spot. The keys jingled in his hand when a small voice cut through the air. "Mister." He stopped. The voice came from down low, very low. Benjamin looked around, confused. There was no one at his eye level. "Mister, down here." Benjamin lowered his gaze and felt his chest tighten. A little girl was standing next to his car's bumper. She must have been about 5, maybe 6. Messy blonde hair fell over her thin shoulders, and her blue eyes shone even under the yellowish light of the lamp post. Her clothes told a story Benjamin preferred not to read. Worn-out sneakers, jeans with homemade patches, a pink shirt that must have once belonged to someone bigger. But it was the way she held a rag doll, clutched against her chest as if it were the most precious thing in the world, that made something stir deep in his hardened soul. "What are you doing here? Where are your parents?" The girl took a timid step forward. Her big eyes studied him with a seriousness that didn't match her age. "I'm waiting for someone who can help me. Mommy said God always sends someone when we really need it." Benjamin felt an uncomfortable chill. It had been years since he'd heard someone speak of God so naturally. He looked around for a responsible adult, but the street was almost empty. "Does your mother know you're here?" "She's at the hospital with Chloe." "My little sister is very sick." The girl's voice trembled slightly on the last word. Benjamin noticed how she squeezed the doll even tighter, her knuckles turning white. "And you? Shouldn't you be there too?" "Kids can't go in at night. Only during the day, and just for a little while." She said this as if it were the most normal thing in the world, as if a 5-year-old child was always left alone on the street while her family dealt with medical emergencies. Benjamin felt a strange knot in his stomach, a mix of irritation and, was it pity? It had been so long since he'd felt pity for anyone that he almost didn't recognize the emotion. "Look, I don't know how I can help you. You need to go home, or can you teach me how to pray?" The question came out so quickly and directly that Benjamin was left speechless. He blinked a few times, trying to process what he had heard. "What?" "My sister Chloe is in the hospital and I don't know how to talk to God." The girl's blue eyes filled with tears, but she didn't cry. She just looked at Benjamin as if he were the last hope in the world. Benjamin felt his legs grow heavy. The child's simple question had struck an exposed nerve he thought he had managed to bury. Memories came like an avalanche. His mother praying every night before bed, her hands clasped over the hospital sheets in her final days, her weak voice asking him not to lose faith. I don't... Please, mister. I really need you to." The girl took another step, getting so close that Benjamin could see the freckles on her nose. There was a genuine urgency in her voice, a desperation he recognized all too well. It was the same desperation he had felt when the doctors said there was nothing more they could do for his mother. "What's your name?" "Abby." "Abby. Look, I'm not the right person for this. It's been a long time since But you seem like a good person. Mommy says you can see it in someone's eyes when they're good." Benjamin almost laughed at the irony. A good person, him, who spent his days calculating ways to take advantage of others. who didn't donate a single cent to charity because he considered it a waste of money, who had fired 20 employees last month just to increase the profit margin. But there was something in the way Abby looked at him that left him disarmed. It was as if she saw something in him that even he hadn't seen in a long time. "Abby, I really don't know how." "You just talk to God and ask him to take care of Chloe. She's only 3 and has a really bad infection. The doctors said it's serious." 3 years old. Her sister was only 3 and fighting a serious infection. Benjamin imagined an even smaller version of Abby, perhaps with the same blonde hair and light eyes, fragile in a hospital bed. The silence stretched between them. Cars passed on the street. People walked hurriedly on the sidewalk. The city continued its frantic pace. But there, in that small circle of light from the lamppost, time seemed to have stopped. Benjamin looked at the girl's hands, small, dirt-stained, with bitten nails. The hands of someone who had grown up too fast, who already carried worries far too heavy for her age. "Okay." The word came out before he could think better of it. Abby smiled, and it was as if the sun had risen in the middle of the night. "Really? Really?" Benjamin knelt on the asphalt, bringing himself to the girl's eye level. His expensive suit wrinkled, but he didn't care. It had been decades since he had prayed, not since he was a child and his mother taught him the basic prayers before bed. "I'm not very good at this anymore, okay, but let's try." Abby nodded vigorously, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. "You can close your eyes if you want." She obeyed immediately, squeezing her eyelids shut tightly. Benjamin took a deep breath and searched for words he hadn't used in years. "God, look, I know it's been a while since we've talked. Actually, I think we kind of stopped talking after some things that happened." Benjamin paused, feeling his throat tighten. Abby remained with her eyes closed, but there was a small smile on her lips. "But there's a little girl here who really needs your help. Her sister, Chloe, is sick in the hospital, and Abby here. She has the purest heart I've seen in a long time." It was true, he realized with surprise. There was a purity in that child's faith that he had forgotten existed. "So, if you're still listening, please, take care of little Chloe. Help the doctors heal her. And take care of Abby too, because she's being braver than a lot of adults out there." Benjamin paused, trying to find a way to end. The words that came were the same ones his mother used when he was little. "Amen. Amen." Abby opened her eyes and smiled with such genuine joy that Benjamin felt his chest ache. "Now I can talk to God for Chloe." "Thank you, mister." She threw herself forward and hugged Benjamin tightly. Her small arms could barely reach around his back, but the hug had an intensity that caught him off guard. When was the last time someone had hugged him like that, without wanting anything in return, just with pure gratitude? "You're welcome, Abby." She pulled away but held his hand for a moment. "What's your name?" "Benjamin." "Thank you, Benjamin. God bless you." And she ran off, the rag doll swinging at her side. Benjamin remained there, still kneeling on the asphalt, watching the girl disappear around the corner. The city's noise gradually returned. Cars, horns, people talking on their phones. He stood up slowly, brushing the dirt from the knee of his pants. His hands were still trembling a little. What had just happened? In 15 minutes, a strange child had managed to make him pray for the first time in 3 years. Benjamin got into the car and started the engine, but he didn't drive away immediately. He sat there, hands on the steering wheel, trying to understand the whirlwind of emotions in his chest. Chloe, a 3-year-old girl with a serious infection, and Abby, 5 years old, asking for divine help for her sister while her mother kept vigil at the hospital. Where was the father? Why was Abby alone on the street? Benjamin shook his head and stepped on the accelerator. It wasn't his problem. He had helped as he could. He had taught the girl to pray. Done. End of story. But as he drove through the city's illuminated streets, the image of Abby's blue eyes wouldn't leave his mind. The way she had asked for help, not for herself, but for her little sister. the absolute confidence that God would send someone to help. And he had sent him. Benjamin let out a humorless laugh. Him, who hadn't set foot in a church in 3 years. Him, who cursed God's name whenever things went wrong. Him who had lost his faith along with his mother. His apartment was in an upscale neighborhood on the top floor of a modern building. Benjamin parked in the garage and went up in the private elevator. The place was immaculate, expensive furniture, works of art on the walls, a panoramic view of the city. The best of everything, everything perfect, everything empty. Benjamin loosened his tie and poured a whiskey. He sat in the Italian leather armchair, looking at the city lights through the glass window. But instead of seeing the illuminated buildings, he kept seeing a blonde girl with light eyes, hugging a ragdoll as if it were a treasure. Chloe was in a hospital at that very moment, a 3-year-old baby fighting an infection, while her older sister prayed with words that a hard-hearted stranger had taught her. Benjamin took a sip of the whiskey, but the taste was bitter. He got up and walked to the window. Down below, the city bustled with life. Millions of people, each with their own struggles, their fears, their hopes. How many other children like Abby were out there, asking for help that never came? He shook his head again, annoyed with himself. Since when did he care about strangers? Since when could a 15-minute conversation with a child affect him so much? But the answer came as clear as crystal, since he saw in Abby's eyes the same faith his mother had held until her last moment, the faith he had thrown away along with the condolences and funeral flowers. Benjamin finished the whiskey in one gulp and went to his bedroom. But even after changing his clothes, brushing his teeth and lying down in the king-size bed, sleep wouldn't come. He stared at the ceiling, thinking about a girl who believed that God sent people to help when you really needed it, thinking about a 3-year-old baby in a hospital bed, thinking about a mother keeping a lonely vigil while selling cakes to survive, and thinking about the prayer he had said after so many years of silence. Maybe God really had heard, maybe not. But Benjamin knew one thing. Tomorrow, he wouldn't be able to concentrate on numbers and contracts as he always did, because a little blonde girl with light eyes had planted a seed of restlessness in his stone-cold chest. A seed that reeked, he suspected, was beginning to grow. Benjamin woke up before the alarm went off, 6 in the morning, and he was already wide awake, staring at the white ceiling of his room. The night had been a series of fragmented dreams, blue eyes, rag dolls, small voices asking for help. He got up and went to the open-plan kitchen, turning on the Italian coffee machine that had cost more than a month's rent. But the coffee, usually perfect, tasted like nothing. Benjamin stood on his apartment's balcony, watching the city wake up below, and he couldn't get Abby out of his head. Where had she slept last night? Did she go home alone? A 5-year-old girl walking the streets? Did her mother know she was asking strangers for help? Benjamin shook his head, irritated. It was none of his business. He had an important meeting at 9, 3 contracts to review, and an acquisition proposal that could make the company millions. But when he got to the office, he couldn't focus on anything. He kept staring out the window, thinking about a blonde girl who believed God sent people to help, thinking about a 3-year-old baby in a hospital bed. During the first meeting, his mind wandered. The manager from Morrison & Co. was talking about percentages and profit margins, but all Benjamin could hear was Abby's voice. "My little sister is very sick." "Mr. Torres?" the client repeated for the 3rd time. "Do you agree with the terms?" "Sorry, could you repeat that?" The man frowned, visibly annoyed. Benjamin was known for his laser focus on business. It was strange to see him distracted. "I was asking about the exclusivity clause in the contract." Benjamin looked at the papers on the table, but the words seemed to blur. All he saw were blonde hair and blue eyes asking to learn how to pray. "Let's reschedule for tomorrow." He stood up abruptly. "I need to take care of an urgent matter." "But sir, we came all the way from Chicago especially for..." "Tomorrow." Benjamin walked out of the room, leaving the client and his team bewildered. At the reception desk, he stopped in front of his secretary. "Cancel all my morning appointments." "Sir, but you have the presentation for the Japanese investors at 11 and—" "Cancel everything. Reschedule for tomorrow or the day after." The woman looked at him, astonished. In 10 years of working for Benjamin, she had never seen him cancel important meetings. "May I ask where you're going, in case of an emergency?" Benjamin hesitated at the elevator door. "I'm going to take care of some unfinished business." In the car, he typed into the GPS, City General Hospital. The drive took 40 minutes in the morning traffic. The closer he got to the hospital, the more nervous he became. What was he doing? Why did he care so much about 2 children he barely knew? But something inside him needed to see if Chloe was okay. He needed to know how Abby had spent the night. The hospital was a world different from what he knew. A grey, worn-down building with grimy windows and walls that screamed for a renovation. The parking lot was full, old cars, some dented, others that could barely run. Benjamin parked his BMW between a 90s Ford and a rusty van. He felt ridiculously out of place. The main entrance was crowded. People waited on plastic chairs, some for hours, judging by the exhaustion on their faces. Children cried in the laps of weary mothers. Elderly people dozed against the walls. The smell was a strong mix of disinfectant, reheated food, and something he preferred not to identify. Benjamin crossed the lobby, his Italian suit drawing curious glances. He approached the information desk, where a middle-aged woman was typing something into an old computer. "Good morning, I'm looking for a patient. Chloe." He stopped. He didn't know her last name. "Chloe who, sir? She's a little girl, 3 years old, admitted with an infection. She has a 5-year-old sister, blonde." "Oh," the receptionist smiled warmly. "Rebecca's family. Everyone here knows the girls. Little Abby stays here all day, never leaves her sister's side. Sweetest thing." Benjamin's heart raced. Abby was here. "Si, can you tell me where they are?" "3rd floor, pediatric wing, room 314. The woman studied him for a moment. "Are you a relative?" "I'm a friend." Benjamin took the elevator up, his stomach churning with nerves. The 3rd floor was even busier than the ground floor. Nurses rushed back and forth with trays of medicine and clipboards. Young doctors, who looked like they hadn't slept in days, checked charts while leaning against the walls. The sound of children crying came from several rooms. A nurse hurried past with a baby in her arms. From the end of the hall came the sound of monitors beeping in a rapid rhythm. He followed the numbers on the doors, 308, 310, 312, 314. He stopped in front of the half-open door and took a deep breath. He could hear quiet voices inside, a woman speaking gently, a child responding. "Benjamin!" He turned and saw Abby running down the hall. She was wearing the same clothes as the day before, only more wrinkled and with a few stains. Her blonde hair was messier, and there were small dark circles around her light eyes. "You came!" She threw herself into his arms just like the night before. "I knew you would come. I told Mommy I met an angel yesterday." Benjamin knelt to her level. Up close, he could see she was tired, far too tired for a 5-year-old. "How are you, Abby?" "Did you sleep well?" "I slept here at the hospital." She pointed to the end of the hall, where a few plastic chairs were pushed against the wall. "There are some chairs that turn into a bed. It's not very comfortable, but this way I can stay close to Chloe." His chest tightened. A 5-year-old child sleeping in a hospital chair because she didn't want to leave her sister alone. "And your mum? Did she sleep here too?" "Mommy doesn't sleep. She stays up taking care of Chloe. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and she's there, holding my sister's hand and crying softly." Benjamin felt his stomach churn. A mother keeping vigil beside her sick daughter, with no money for a private hospital, no help, no one. "And you, did you eat anything today?" Abby made a face. "The food here is kind of bad. But there's a nurse, Sandra, who sometimes brings me cookies. 5 years old and surviving on cookies given by kind nurses. And Chloe, how is she? Abby's smile faded a little. The doctors said she's still very sick, but I prayed all night with the words you taught me. I think God is listening because she moved her fingers when I was praying. I'm sure he's listening. Abby took his hand, her small fingers warm. Come meet her, and Mommy too, she'll really like you. Benjamin let the girl lead him into the room. It was a shared ward with 6 beds, separated only by thin, worn curtains. The linoleum floor was scuffed, the walls needed painting, and there were leaks in the ceiling dripping into buckets scattered on the floor. In the first bed, a boy of about 10 was connected to several machines. In the second, a baby was crying while her mother tried to soothe her. In the third, an elderly woman coughed endlessly. Abby led him to the bed in the corner, where a young woman was sitting on an orange plastic chair, the kind you'd find in a cheap diner. Rebecca must have been about 25, but she looked older. She had the same blonde hair as her daughters, but it was dull, tied back in a messy ponytail. Her blue eyes were red from exhaustion and worry, with deep dark circles that told the story of sleepless nights. She wore faded jeans, with one knee starting to tear, and a light blue shirt that had seen better days. On her feet were white sneakers that were once white, now more grey than anything else. But it was when Benjamin looked at the bed that he felt the air leave his lungs. Chloe was there, so small she almost disappeared among the white hospital sheets. Light, fine blonde hair was spread on the pillow, her skin as pale as porcelain, her breathing irregular, making her small chest rise and fall with difficulty. She had an IV in her tiny arm, a blue vein visible under her transparent skin. Several wires led from her fragile body to old monitors that beeped softly. One of the machines was making a strange noise, as if it were about to break. Mommy, this is Benjamin, the man who taught me how to pray. Rebecca stood up from the chair, quickly wiping her eyes to dry the tears she didn't want her daughter to see. Thank you for looking after Abby yesterday. Her voice was hoarse from so much crying. I didn't know she had left the hospital. When I saw she wasn't in the chairs where she always sits, I was frantic. You don't need to worry. She's a very smart girl. Too smart for her age, Rebecca smiled, but it was a tired, weak smile. Ever since her father left, she's become my little helper. She takes care of her sister like she's her mother. Benjamin looked at Abby, who had moved closer to the bed and was whispering something to Chloe. The sick girl didn't respond, but Benjamin could have sworn he saw her eyelids flutter slightly. How long has she been like this? 4 days. Rebecca sat down again, as if her legs could no longer bear the weight of her body and her worry. It started with a high fever on Monday. I thought it was just a virus, you know. Kids get those things all the time. She paused to look at her daughter, her voice trembling. But the fever wouldn't break. Then came the vomiting, diarrhea. She became limp, with no strength at all. When I brought her here on Tuesday morning, she was already dehydrated. The doctors said it's a severe intestinal infection. And the treatment? Rebecca laughed, but there was no humor in it. Whatever they can do here, IV fluids, basic antibiotics, monitoring. The doctors are good. They do the best they can with what they have, but... She gestured vaguely around the room. Darcy, it's not exactly a private hospital, is it? Benjamin observed the room with new eyes. The peeling walls, the worn floor, equipment that looked like it was made in the last century. In the next bed, the elderly woman coughed non-stop, and no one came to check on her. On the other side of the curtain, the baby cried and the mother tried to calm him alone. And you? How are you supporting yourself during this time? Rebecca hesitated, looking at her daughters before answering. Abby was focused on whispering to her sister, not paying attention to the adults' conversation. I lost my job last month. The store where I worked as a salesperson closed down. Budget cuts, they said. She lowered her voice. Now I get by selling cakes. I make them at home and sell them on the street, door to door at traffic lights. It's hard to take care of 2 children alone, especially with one sick. I do what I can." The raw honesty of her confession hit Benjamin like a punch to the gut. He thought of his bank account with 8 figures, the apartment that cost $2 million, the 3 cars in his garage, and here was a mother selling homemade cakes to buy medicine for her daughter. The girl's a father? He disappeared when Chloe was born. Rebecca wiped her eyes again, said he wasn't ready for 2 kids, that he was going to take a break and come back when he was better off financially. And did he come back? 3 years have passed. I guess his break isn't over yet. Benjamin felt anger. Anger at a man who would abandon 2 small children and a woman who clearly loved him. Did the doctors say anything about other options, other treatments? Rebecca looked at him with a mix of curiosity and desperation. "Sir, I don't even have money to buy the medicines she needs here. Yesterday, a nurse said there was a new drug that could help, but it costs $400. I don't make that selling cakes in a week." $400. Benjamin spent more than that on a bottle of wine. "A private hospital is a whole other world for me," Rebecca continued. Sometimes I see them on TV. Those rooms with just 1 bed. Nurses who only take care of 1 patient. It seems like a dream." Abby came back to them, holding the rag doll she never let go of. "Benjamin, can you pray with us again? I think when you pray, God listens better." Rebecca smiled for the first time since he had arrived. It was a small but genuine smile. "Abby hasn't stopped talking about you since yesterday. She said you're an angel God sent to help us." Benjamin felt his chest tighten. An angel? Him, who had spent his entire life thinking only of his own success. "I'm no angel, Abby. Mommy always says angels don't have wings. They have good hearts." Benjamin looked at the little girl in the bed, connected to wires and machines. He looked at Rebecca, trying to be strong even as her world was falling apart. He looked at Abby, who held her doll like a talisman of hope and could still manage a smile. Something broke inside him. A barrier he had built over 3 years of bitterness and disillusionment. All the walls he had erected to protect himself from pain came crashing down at once. "Rebecca!" He turned to the girls. "Mother," his voice coming out firmer than he expected. "Don't worry." "What do you mean?" "I'm going to help." Rebecca blinked a few times, as if she hadn't understood. "Sir, I can't accept money from a stranger. It wouldn't be right." "I said I'm going to help," Benjamin said with a firmness that surprised even himself. "Your daughter deserves the best treatment, and she's going to get it." Rebecca looked at him as if he were speaking a foreign language. "What exactly are you saying?" "I'm saying that Chloe is going to have everything she needs to get well. The best doctors, the best medicines, the best treatment, but I have no way to pay I do." Silence filled the room. Even the baby on the other side of the curtain stopped crying for a moment. Abby stood quietly, her big eyes darting from Benjamin to her mother. Rebecca began to cry. Not a dramatic cry, but silent tears of relief, of hope, of a gratitude so deep it couldn't be put into words. "Why?" she whispered, her voice broken. "Why would you do this for us? You don't even know us." Benjamin looked at Chloe. So small and fragile she looked like a broken bird. He looked at Abby, who was smiling as if the sun had just broken through the darkness. He looked at Rebecca, a mother fighting alone to save her daughter. "Because you taught me something I had forgotten." "What?" "That there are still things in life worth more than money." Abby came closer and took his hand, squeezing it tightly. "I knew you were an angel. God sent you to take care of us." Benjamin squeezed the small and warm hand, feeling tears welling up in his own eyes. "No, Abby, I think you guys came to take care of me." Benjamin didn't waste any time. He left room 314 and went straight into the hallway, pulling his phone from his pocket. His hands trembled slightly as he searched for the number in his contacts. "Doctor." "Mitchell, it's Benjamin Torres. I need an urgent favor." On the other end of the line, the private doctor who had been treating Benjamin for years answered with curiosity. "Benjamin, Is everything all right? You never call me outside of business hours. I have a delicate situation. Her 3-year-old child, admitted to City General Hospital with a severe intestinal infection. I need her transferred to St. Mary's today. Today, Benjamin. Transfers like this take at least 2 days to... I don't have 2 days. Benjamin's voice was firmer than usual. The girl needs special care and I'll pay for everything. Private pay, no insurance, no bureaucracy. There was a pause on the other end. Cornus, are you serious? Completely. How much do I need to deposit to secure the bed and an immediate transfer? Benjamin, you're talking about a considerable amount. The specialized transport alone costs about $5,000. And the treatment at St. Mary's... I know. How much? To guarantee everything, an initial deposit of about $50,000. But, done. I'll transfer it right now. I want the ambulance here in 2 hours. Benjamin hung up and called his bank. Within 15 minutes, he had authorized the transfer. He went back to the room where Rebecca was still by the bed, holding Chloe's small hand. "Di Rebecca?" She looked up with her red eyes. "Yes. In 2 hours, an ambulance from St. Mary's Hospital will be here to pick up Chloe." Rebecca blinked several times, as if she hadn't understood. "What?" "She's going to be transferred to the best hospital in the city. Private room, specialist doctors, everything she needs." Tears began to stream down Rebecca's face before she could even speak. "Sir, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything. You just need to pack her things." Abby dropped her doll and ran to hug Benjamin. "You did it! You did it!" "Chloe's going to the Angel Hospital." The Angel Hospital. That's what I call the nice hospitals, where people get really well. Rebecca stood up from the chair, but her legs gave out. Benjamin caught her by the arm. "Easy, sit here. I can't believe it." She looked at Chloe, then at Benjamin. "How will I ever repay this? How will I pay you back? You're not going to pay anything, and you don't need to repay me. But sir, this must cost a fortune. To me, it costs nothing. To you, it's worth everything." Rebecca cried harder, but they were tears of relief. Tears from a mother who saw her daughter being saved when she thought all hope was lost. "And why are you doing this?" Benjamin looked at Chloe, so small in the big bed. He looked at Abby, who was smiling as if all the miracles in the world had happened at once. "Because for the first time in a long time, I'm doing something that really matters." 2 hours later, the ambulance arrived. It wasn't an ordinary ambulance. It was a mobile ICU, with all the necessary equipment to transport Chloe in complete safety. The specialized paramedics transferred the girl with extreme care. Rebecca didn't let go of her daughter's hand for a second. Abby held her doll against her chest, her big eyes following every movement. "Mind they follow in your car, sir?" the ambulance doctor asked Benjamin. "Of course. Let's go together." The drive to St. Mary's was silent. Rebecca sat in the front seat, turning around every 5 seconds to see if the ambulance was still behind them. Abby sat in the back, quiet for the first time since Benjamin had met her. "Are you scared?" he asked, looking in the rearview mirror. "A little, but it's a good scared, like when you're about to get a really big present." Benjamin smiled. "A good scared." That made sense. St. Mary's Hospital was another world, a wide entrance with automatic doors, a lobby with marble floors, soft music playing, smiling receptionists, uniformed staff, everything clean and organized. Chloe was taken straight to her room on the 5th floor. It was a private room, with a large window, a private bathroom, an armchair that converted into a bed for a companion, and a large screen TV on the wall. "Wow," Abby whispered, looking around. "It's just like in the movies." Rebecca couldn't stop crying. She cried seeing her daughter connected to modern monitors that didn't make strange noises. She cried seeing the private nurse assigned just to Chloe. She cried seeing the comfortable bed where she could sleep next to her daughter. Patricia Chen will be the pediatrician in charge. The doctor who received Chloe explained to Rebecca, "She's a specialist in childhood infections, one of the best in the country. She's already reviewing the tests and should be here in an hour to evaluate her personally." Benjamin stood in the corner of the room observing. Seeing Rebecca care for Chloe in that clean, modern environment was different. There was hope in the air. There was a real possibility of recovery. "Mr. Torres?" The nurse approached him. "I need some information for the registration." "Of course. You are the financially responsible party, correct?" "Yes." "And your relationship to the patient?" Benjamin hesitated. What was his relationship with this family? He had barely known them for 2 days. "I'm a friend of the family." "I see. I'll prepare the paperwork." When they were alone in the room, Rebecca approached Benjamin. "I know you said not to thank you, but thank you. Thank you for saving my daughter. She's going to get well." "I'm sure of it. How can I ever repay you? How can I? By taking good care of them, both of them. That's all I want." Abby came closer, tugging on the hem of Benjamin's jacket. "Are you still going to come here? Or now that Chloe is in the Angel Hospital, are you going to leave?" The question caught Benjamin off guard. He hadn't thought about what came next. He had solved the immediate problem, secured the best treatment for Chloe, and now, "Of course I'll keep coming. Every day. Every day." And that's exactly what happened. Benjamin created a routine he never imagined he'd have. Work during the day, the hospital every evening. He would leave the office at 6 sharp, something he had never done before, and go straight to St. Mary's. In the first week, he arrived at the room to find Abby sitting on the floor, staring at the wall. "What are you doing?" "Nothing. There's nothing to do here." "What do you mean?" "At the other hospital, there were other kids. There was activity. It's too quiet here, and I can't watch TV because Chloe is sleeping." Benjamin looked around. The room was perfect for recovery, but terrible for a 5-year-old who needed to be entertained. "Come with me." "Where to?" "You'll see." Benjamin took Abby to the hospital cafeteria. It was modernist with various healthy food options and a kids' area in the back. "You can pick whatever you want." Abby looked at the menu as if it were written in a foreign language. "Anything? Anything?" She ordered a sandwich, apple juice, and a chocolate muffin. She ate slowly, savoring every bite. "Is it good?" "Very. It's been a long time since I ate food this good." Benjamin's chest tightened. A 5-year-old child who couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten something truly delicious. "Tomorrow I'll bring you something." "What?" "A surprise." The next day, Benjamin arrived at the hospital carrying a large bag. "What's that?" Abby asked, curious. "Open it and see." Inside the bag were colored pencils, crayons, colored pens, pads of paper, coloring books, and a few illustrated storybooks. "For me, for you, so you can draw while Chloe sleeps, and you can read her the stories when she wakes up." Abby hugged the bag as if it were the most precious treasure in the world. "Thank you, Benjamin." "Thank you so much." "You're welcome." Abby opened the first pad of paper and picked up a blue pencil. "I'm going to draw you." "Me?" "You saving Chloe, like a superhero." Benjamin sat on the floor beside her and watched. Abby drew with total concentration, her tongue sticking out, her blonde hair falling over her eyes. First, she drew a tall man in a suit. Then a little girl in a bed. Around the bed, she drew hearts and stars. Done. She showed him the drawing. "This is you, bringing Chloe to the Angel Hospital." Benjamin looked at the drawing. It was simple, made by a child, but there was something about it that moved him deeply. The man in the drawing was smiling. When was the last time he had truly smiled? "Can I keep it?" "Of course. I'll make a different one every day." And that's what she did. Every day, Abby had a new drawing to show him. Some were of Chloe playing in the park. Others were of the whole family together. Some were just flowers and butterflies. But there was always a drawing of Benjamin. Sometimes he was reading to Chloe, sometimes taking Abby out to eat. Sometimes just sitting in the room, keeping them company. Why do you always draw me? Benjamin asked one Tuesday, looking at a drawing where he and Abby were sharing a giant ice cream cone. Because you're part of our family now. Family? Yeah. You take care of us like a dad does, or like a really great uncle. Benjamin felt something stir in his chest. Family. It had been years since he had felt like part of a family. As the days passed, Benjamin noticed changes in himself. He would arrive at the office thinking about how Chloe had spent the night. During meetings, he would imagine what drawing Abby was making. In the middle of an important negotiation, he would remember the girl's smile when he brought her the first storybook. Sir? His secretary interrupted him during a video conference on a Thursday. It's 6 o'clock, aren't you leaving? Benjamin looked at the clock, surprised. For the past 2 months, he had gotten into the habit of leaving at the same time every day. His clients already knew that after 6 he was unavailable, of course. Finish the meeting for me. But sir, it's the Japanese investors. Finish it for me. Benjamin grabbed his jacket and left. In the elevator, he realized he was eager to get to the hospital, eager to see Chloe's progress, to hear Abby's stories, to sit in that armchair in the room and feel at home. When he arrived at St. Mary's, he found Abby in the hallway, running towards him. Benjamin, Chloe woke up, she's talking. Benjamin's heart raced. Really? Come see. Benjamin entered the room and saw Chloe sitting up in bed, still pale and thin, but with her blue eyes shining. She looked at him with curiosity. Chloe, this is Benjamin. The angel who took care of you. The little girl smiled shyly and waved with her small hand. Hi. Hi, Chloe. How are you feeling? Better. Abby said you brought me to the Angel Hospital. Your sister made up that name. I like it. It's nice here. Benjamin approached the bed. Seeing Chloe awake, talking was better than any closed deal, any profit made. The doctor said she's responding very well to the treatment, Rebecca commented, her eyes shining with joy. She said that in another 2 weeks, she might be discharged. 2 weeks. Benjamin should have been happy. The girl was getting better, mission accomplished. But a part of him felt sad. Why did the idea of Chloe being discharged make him feel this way? That's great, he forced a smile. Benjamin, Abby tugged at his sleeve, when Chloe gets out of the hospital, will you still be our friend? He looked into the girl's blue eyes, filled with hope and a little bit of fear. Of course, Abby, I'll always be your friend. Really? Abby smiled and went back to her sister's side. Benjamin watched the two girls talking quietly, Rebecca organizing the medicines on the table, everyone together in that room that had become a second home for him. For the first time in 3 years, Benjamin felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. It was a Friday night when everything changed. Benjamin arrived at the hospital as he always did, carrying a bag of sandwiches from the French bakery that Abby had discovered the week before. In recent days, it had become a tradition to bring something special for the girls. Dinner. The elevator rose slowly to the 5th floor, and Benjamin used the few seconds to think about his day. Another cancelled meeting, another annoyed client because he could no longer work late. His secretary had already stopped asking where he went every night. The 5th floor hallway was busier than usual. Nurses were rushing back and forth, and Benjamin felt a pang of worry. Had something happened to Chloe? When he reached room 512, he found a scene that made him stop at the door. Rebecca was beside the bed, holding Chloe in her arms. The little girl was standing on trembling legs, supported by her mother, taking small, uncertain steps. "Mommy, I can do it," Chloe was saying, concentrating. "Look, I'm walking." "Slowly, my love. Slowly," Rebecca replied, emotional. Abby was sitting on the floor, clapping her hands. "That's it, Chloe. You can do it. One more step." Benjamin stood frozen in the doorway, the bag in his hand. 3 weeks ago, Chloe could barely open her eyes. Now she was taking her first steps after her illness. "Benjamin," Abby saw him first. "Look at Chloe. She's walking. She's walking by herself." Chloe turned towards the voice and smiled when she saw Benjamin. It was a small and still fragile smile, but full of pride. "Hi, Benjamin," she waved. "Did you see? I'm walking." "I see, little one. You're getting very strong, aren't you?" Benjamin entered the room and placed the bag on the table. His heart was beating fast seeing Chloe on her feet, alive, healthy. 2 months ago, she was on the verge of death. "The doctor said I'm almost better," Chloe said proudly. "She said my body is winning against the mean infection, and soon I'll be able to go home." Benjamin knelt on the floor, getting to the girl's level. "And you, how are you feeling?" "Good, very good," Chloe smiled. "I still get tired sometimes, but my tummy doesn't hurt anymore. And I don't have that bad taste in my mouth anymore." Rebecca smiled. But Benjamin noticed tears in her eyes. They were tears of joy and relief. "Dr. Chen said she could be discharged in a week," Rebecca explained, her voice trembling. "Today's tests are all normal. There's no longer any sign of the infection." 1 week. Benjamin felt a strange sensation in his chest. He should be happy. Chloe was cured, but there was a melancholy he couldn't explain. "That's wonderful," he forced a smile. "I'm so happy for you all." Abby let go of her sister's hands and ran to hug Benjamin. It was a tight hug, the kind she gave when she was overflowing with happiness. "See," she whispered in his ear, "God heard our prayers. Now Chloe is being taken care of. Mommy didn't have the money, but you are a gift he sent to us." The words hit Benjamin like a lightning bolt. He felt his eyes fill with tears he couldn't hold back. For the first time in 3 years, he cried. Not tears of sadness, but of a pure emotion he couldn't name. Abby pulled back a little and saw the tears on his face. "Teas, why are you crying? Did I say something wrong?" Benjamin shook his head, wiping his eyes. "No, Abby, you said everything right, perfectly right. Then why are you crying?" "Sometimes we cry when we're very, very happy." Abby tilted her head, thinking, "Like when I got the doll from Nurse Sandra." "Exactly like that. So you're very happy with us." "I'm happier than I've been in a very long time." Chloe approached slowly, still leaning on Rebecca. "Benjamin, you're a very good person, aren't you?" He looked at the 2 girls, Abby with her messy blonde hair and bright blue eyes. Chloe, still pale but with color returning to her cheeks. "I don't know, Chloe. I think I'm just a man who learned something very important from you." "What?" "That there are things much more important than money." "Like what?" Benjamin smiled. "Like taking care of the people we love. Like being there when someone needs you." Rebecca came closer, still holding Chloe. "Mr. Benjamin, I know you don't like it when I keep thanking you, but Rebecca, let me speak, please." She took a deep breath. "You saved my daughter, not just by paying for the hospital, but by being here every day, bringing food, toys, keeping us company. Abby talks about you all day long. Chloe asks when you're going to arrive. You've become family to us." Benjamin felt his chest tighten. Family. He had been feeling it for weeks, but hearing Rebecca say it out loud made it all real. "You've become family to me too." It was true. For the past 2 months, that hospital room had become more important than his apartment. The conversations with Abby were more interesting than any meeting. Seeing Chloe get better was more gratifying than any profit. "Really?" Abby asked, her eyes wide. "Very really. So you'll keep coming to see us after Chloe leaves the hospital?" Benjamin looked at the 3 women in his life because that's what they had become. 3 women who had transformed him. "Of course I will. Every day? Every day you want me to." "And what if we want you every day?" Benjamin laughed for the first time in weeks. "Then it will be every day." Abby jumped for joy. Chloe smiled and held out her arms to Benjamin, who carefully picked her up. "Thank you for saving me," she whispered in his ear. "Thank you for saving me too. What do you mean you weren't sick?" Benjamin thought about the answer. How could he explain to a 3-year-old that he was sick, just not in his body? Sometimes people get sick in their hearts, and you healed mine. Chloe nodded as if she understood. "Now we're all healed, right? Now we're all healed." They spent the rest of the evening in the room like a family. Benjamin helped Chloe walk down the hall, holding her small hand as she took slow but determined steps. Abby ran ahead, encouraging her sister. "One more step, Chloe, you can do it." "I'm doing it," Chloe would answer proudly. "Look how many steps." 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Abby continued the count. "You're the strongest girl in the world." When they returned to the room, Rebecca served the dinner Benjamin had brought, sandwiches, apple juice, and a small chocolate cake. "Why do you always bring us yummy food?" Chloe asked, taking a slow bite of her sandwich. Because I like to see you eating well and happy." "But you hardly eat anything," Abby observed. "You always just watch us eat." It was true. Benjamin realized he had been eating little lately. He was more interested in seeing the girls eat, in hearing about their day. "I eat at home later." "Liar," Abby said, matter-of-factly. "You're thinner." Mommy mentioned it. Benjamin looked at Rebecca, who blushed. "It's true. You look different, thinner, but also more present, happier. Happier." Benjamin thought about it. Was it true? As he looked around the room, Chloe eating with an appetite, Abby drawing in her new notepad, Rebecca organizing medicines with a smile, he realized that yes, he was happier than he had been in years. "I think you're right." "Why?" Abby asked without looking up from her drawing. "Because you taught me what I had forgotten." "What?" Benjamin thought about the answer. How could he explain that he had spent 3 years living like a dead man? "You taught me that taking care of people is the most important thing in the world." Abby stopped drawing and looked at him. "But you always knew that." "No, Abby. I had completely forgotten." How does someone forget something so important? Sometimes, when we're very sad for a long time, we forget about the good things in life. And now you remember. "Now I remember. And I'll never forget again." Abby smiled and returned to her drawing. A few minutes later, she showed the paper to Benjamin. "Saidan." In the drawing, 4 people were holding hands in front of a house. A tall woman, 2 small girls, and a man in a suit. They were all smiling. At the top of the page, she had written, "My happy family." "That's us," she explained. "You, me, Chloe, and Mommy." Benjamin looked at the drawing for a long time. There he was, drawn by a child, part of a family. "Okay, can I keep this drawing?" "Of course, but you have to promise one thing." "What?" "That you'll still be our family even after Chloe gets all better." Benjamin looked at Rebecca, who nodded with a smile. He looked at Chloe, who was almost asleep. He looked at Abby, who was waiting hopefully for an answer. "I promise. Until when?" "Forever. Even when me and Chloe get old. Even when you get old." Abby smiled, satisfied, and snuggled up next to Benjamin in the armchair. "I knew God would send someone special to take care of us. I just didn't know it would be someone as caring as you." Benjamin put his arm around the girl, feeling her small, warm weight against his chest. It had been years since he had felt that sense of protectiveness. "Do you want to know a secret, Abby?" "I do. It wasn't God who sent me to take care of you, and it was you who came to take care of me." Abby thought about his answer for a moment. "I think it was both. God has a special way of making the right things happen at the right time." Benjamin looked out the room's window. Outside, the city sparkled with millions of lights. And here, in this small hospital room, he had found his family. "Rebecca," he called softly. "Yes. When Chloe is discharged, would you all like to have dinner at my place on Sunday?" Rebecca smiled, the first completely relaxed smile he had seen on her face. We would love that. Really? Abby lifted her head. Is your house big? It is. But it was very empty until now. And now? Benjamin looked at the three people who had changed his life. And now it will be full of what really matters. Chloe was already asleep in Rebecca's arms. Abby was yawning against Benjamin's chest. The night nurse came in to check Chloe's vitals and smiled at the scene. What a beautiful family, she commented quietly. Benjamin didn't correct her. Family, yes, that's exactly what they were. When Rebecca put Chloe to bed and Abby settled into the armchair bed, Benjamin prepared to leave. Benjamin, Abby called him, her eyes already closed. Yes? Thank you for being so good to us. Thank you for teaching me what really matters. Benjamin left the hospital that night feeling different, complete. For 3 years, he had lived as if a part of him had died with his mother. Now he realized it hadn't died. It was just sleeping, waiting to be awakened by 2 little blonde girls with blue eyes. On the way home, he stopped the car in a gas station parking lot and cried again. He cried with gratitude for having found in the most unlikely of places the family he didn't know he was looking for. And for the first time since his mother's death, Benjamin prayed. Not a formal prayer, but a simple thank you for 2 little girls who had saved a man who thought he was lost forever. It was a rainy Tuesday when Benjamin arrived at the hospital. The weather was heavy. Dark clouds covered the city, and a fine drizzle misted the 5th floor windows. There was something in the air that made him thoughtful, as if the rain brought back old memories he preferred to keep buried. When he entered room 512, he found only Abby. She was sitting in the big armchair, drawing silently. Rebecca had gone downstairs to sort out some paperwork for Chloe's discharge, which would happen the next day. The little girl was sleeping peacefully in her bed, her breathing regular and healthy. "Hi, Benjamin." Abby looked up from her drawing, but her smile wasn't as bright as usual. "Hi, little one. Is everything okay? You seem a little sad." Abby put her pencil down and sighed as if she were carrying the weight of the world on her small shoulders. "I'm thinking about something." "About what?" "Tomorrow, Chloe is getting discharged, and then we're going to leave here." Benjamin sat on the edge of the bed near the armchair where Abby was sitting. "And that makes you sad?" "A little," she admitted, looking down. "Here at the hospital you come every day, but when we go home—" "Abby, look at me." She raised her blue eyes, which seemed more serious than usual. "I already promised that I'll continue to be a part of your lives. Remember?" "I remember. But sometimes people promise things and then they forget." The raw honesty of the observation struck Benjamin in the chest. A 5-year-old child had already learned that people don't always keep their promises. It probably had to do with the father who never came back. "I'm not one of those people, Abby. When I promise something, I keep it." "Really? Really? Do you want to know why?" Abby nodded. "Because you changed my life, and when someone changes your life for the better, you never forget them." Abby seemed to think about his answer for a moment. Outside, the rain was falling harder against the windows, creating a soft, comforting sound. "Benjamin?" "Yes. Can I ask you something I've always wanted to know?" "Of course, you can ask me anything." Abby shifted in the armchair, hugging the rag doll she always carried. "Why didn't you believe in God before you met us?" The question caught Benjamin off guard. In the past few months, he had talked to Abby about many things, but never about this. Never about what had happened to his faith after his mother's death. "That's a tough question, Abby. You don't have to answer if you don't want to." Benjamin looked out the window. The rain continued to fall, creating patterns on the glass. He thought of his mother, of her last weeks of life, of the prayers that went unanswered. You know, my mother was a very religious person. She believed in God with all her heart, like me, exactly like you. She prayed every day, went to church, always said that God looked after us." Abby leaned forward, interested in the story. "And what happened?" "When she got sick, I prayed a lot. I asked God to heal her. I promised I would be a better person if she got well." But she didn't get well. Benjamin shook his head, feeling the old pain tighten his chest. No, she died, and I got very angry with God. I thought he didn't care about good people. And that's why you stopped believing. That's why I stopped believing. Abby was quiet for a moment, processing the information. Chloe stirred in her bed but continued to sleep. But now you believe again. Benjamin looked at the girl with her messy blonde hair and blue eyes full of innocent curiosity. You know, Abby, it was you who made me believe in faith again. I thought I had lost that when my mother died. Now I understand how good it feels to do good and not just think about ourselves. Abby smiled, the first genuine smile since he had arrived. Really? Really? You showed me that God hasn't abandoned people. You taught me that miracles still exist. What do you mean? Benjamin thought about the answer. How could he explain to a child that she herself had been his miracle? When I met you, I was lost. I didn't care about anything or anyone. I only thought about work and money. And now? Now I know that the most important things in life can't be bought. Like the love of a family, like taking care of people who need it, like having faith that things will work out. Abby got up from the armchair and approached Benjamin. She held his hand with her small, warm hands. So, we're praying together now. What do you mean? Before you didn't pray, right? And I prayed alone. Now we both believe in God. So when I pray, you're praying with me. The simplicity of Abby's logic touched something deep in Benjamin's heart. She was right. They were praying together now. That's true. We're praying together. And do you know what that means? What? That our family isn't just made of people. It's a family that believes in the same things, that prays for the same people. That takes care of each other. Benjamin felt his eyes fill with tears. The wisdom of that 5-year-old child was greater than that of many adults he knew. You're very smart, you know that. Mommy always says so. She says God gave me a big heart to make up for my small size. Benjamin laughed, wiping his eyes. Your mother is right. Just then Rebecca entered the room, shaking her wet umbrella. Wow, it's raining harder and harder out there. She paused when she saw Benjamin and Abby holding hands. Did I interrupt an important conversation? We were talking about God, Abby explained. Benjamin told me that he believes again now. Rebecca smiled, taking off her wet coat. That's good. Faith is something we need to have, especially in difficult times. Exactly, Benjamin agreed. And you all taught me that. Rebecca approached the bed where Chloe was sleeping, checking to make sure she was well covered. Mr. Benjamin, can I say something? Of course. Ever since you came into our lives, a lot has changed. Not just Chloe's health, but our whole family has become stronger, happier. It's been the same for me. Abby won't stop saying that you're a gift from God, and I agree with her. Benjamin looked at Abby, who smiled proudly. I was the one who received the gift. You saved me from an empty life. I think we saved each other, Rebecca said, sitting on the edge of the bed. Chloe stirred and slowly opened her eyes. Hi, everyone, she said in a sleepy voice. Why does everyone look so serious? We were talking about important things, Abby explained, and about faith and family. Oh, Chloe sat up in bed, still a bit groggy from sleep. Benjamin, are you going to have dinner with us tomorrow, when I get out of the hospital? Of course I am. We already planned it, remember? I remember, but I wanted to be sure. Benjamin approached the bed and ran his hand through Chloe's blonde hair. You can be sure. I'll be there, and at all the other dinners you want. All of them. All of them. Abby let go of Benjamin's hand and ran to hug her sister. Did you hear that, Chloe? Now we have a complete family, with a substitute dad and everything. Benjamin's heart raced. Substitute dad. He'd never thought of it that way, but it made sense. In the last few months, he had taken on that role without realizing it. If you want me to, of course, he said, looking at Rebecca. We do, Rebecca answered without hesitation. We really do. Then it's decided. Abby clapped her hands. We're a real family now. Benjamin looked around the room, Rebecca organizing Chloe's things for the discharge the next day. Chloe playing with Abby's doll, Abby drawing a new family on paper. 3 years ago, when his mother died, he thought he would never be happy again, that he would never believe in God again, that he would never have a family again. He was wrong about everything. Sometimes God sends miracles in the most unexpected places. Sometimes faith returns through a child who asks to learn how to pray. Sometimes the family we've been searching for our whole lives is waiting for us on a dark corner on a cold night. Benjamin, Abby called him. Yes? Do you want to pray with us? Right now, before Chloe goes back to sleep. Benjamin looked at the 3 women who had become his life. He nodded his head. Yes, I do. They held hands around Chloe's bed. Rebecca, Benjamin, Abby, and Chloe forming a small but strong circle. You can start, Benjamin, Abby said. You know how to pray by yourself now. And Benjamin began to pray, not with the memorized words of his childhood, but with words from his heart. Words of gratitude for having found his family. Words of renewed faith. Words from a man who had learned that miracles exist, and sometimes they come disguised as 2 blonde girls who believe in angels without wings. The morning of Chloe's discharge arrived with a golden sun that streamed through the 5th floor windows, creating bright reflections on the hospital's clean floor. Benjamin woke up earlier than usual, anxious and emotional. After 2.5 months, Chloe was finally going home. During breakfast in his apartment, Benjamin could hardly eat. He stared out the window, thinking about how this family had changed his life. 3 months ago, he was an empty man, focused only on profits and deals. Today, the most important event was not a $1 million meeting, but the discharge of a 3-year-old girl. When he arrived at the hospital, he found room 512 in full celebration mode. Rebecca was folding the last clothes into a small suitcase, checking each item twice. Chloe was sitting on the bed wearing a light yellow dress Benjamin had never seen, probably bought especially for her discharge day. Abby was running back and forth, organizing her drawings into a makeshift folder made of cardboard. "Benjamin!" Chloe shouted when she saw him, jumping off the bed with energy. "Today's the day! I'm going home!" "I'm going to sleep in my own bed." "I see someone is very excited," he smiled, approaching her. "Very, very excited." Chloe did a little twirl, showing off her new dress. "Look how strong I am. The doctor said I'm completely healed. She said the infection is gone forever." Benjamin watched the transformation with emotion. The girl who 2 months ago was pale, fragile, and connected to several machines now had color in her cheeks, a sparkle in her blue eyes, and the energy to jump and run around the room. "You look beautiful, Chloe, and very, very healthy." "The mean infection lost the war," she declared proudly, striking a superhero pose. "I won," Rebecca approached, carrying the small but heavy suitcase. "Dr. Chen came by earlier for the final checkup," she explained, smiling. "She said yesterday's tests are perfect. Chloe can live a completely normal life. She can play, run, go to school when she's old enough." Benjamin felt a wave of profound relief and gratitude. Mission accomplished. The girl was completely cured. All the money spent, all the nights at the hospital, all the worry had been worth it. "Abby, come here," Chloe called to her sister, who was putting away the last colored pencil. "Show him the special drawing." Abby approached, holding a piece of paper with special care, as if it were a valuable work of art. "Well, I made this drawing last night, after the doctor confirmed Chloe would be discharged today," she explained, handing the paper to Benjamin with solemnity. "It's to celebrate Chloe getting better and our family being whole again." Benjamin looked at the drawing and felt his heart swell with emotion. It was a family of 4 holding hands in front of a small house with a garden. A woman with long hair and a blue dress, 2 little girls in colorful dresses, and a man in a dark suit. They were all smiling, not small smiles, but huge smiles that took up half their faces. Above the drawing, she had written in neat, colorful letters, "Our happy and healthy family forever." But it wasn't just the technique that moved Benjamin. It was the hope overflowing from every colourful stroke. It was the way Abby had drawn their hands intertwined, showing an unbreakable bond. It was the small but cosy house, with curtains on the windows and flowers in the garden. It was the huge sun in the sky, radiating golden rays over the family. It's beautiful, Abby. Very, very beautiful. Do you really like it? For real. I like it more than very much. It's the most beautiful drawing I've ever seen. Can I keep it? Of course. It's all yours. So you can always remember that we are a happy family and that nothing will ever tear us apart again. Benjamin carefully placed the drawing in the inner pocket of his jacket, close to his heart, where he already kept other drawings Abby had made. I'll always keep it. It's my most precious treasure. Doctor. Chen appeared at the door with a clipboard, a warm smile, and a nurse accompanying her. Good morning, family. Ready for the big day? So ready, Chloe answered, clapping and jumping. Then let's go over the last details before the official farewell. The doctor sat in the chair next to the bed and carefully explained the post-discharge care to Rebecca. Medication to continue for another week, a balanced diet with no special restrictions, signs to watch for in case anything changed. Benjamin paid attention to every word, memorizing everything as if he were personally responsible for the girl's future care. Any questions about anything? Dr. Chen asked, looking at Rebecca and then at Benjamin. No, doctor. It's all very clear, Rebecca replied. And if any questions come up, can I call? Of course, anytime. Chloe was a very special patient to our entire team. Then you are officially discharged, little Chloe. The doctor stood up and extended her hand to the girl. Sad, you were the bravest patient I've ever cared for. Chloe shook the doctor's hand seriously and then gave her a tight hug. Thank you for healing me and for being so kind to me. Thank you for teaching us what true courage is. Half an hour later, they were in the hospital lobby, saying their official goodbyes to St. Mary's. Benjamin carried Chloe's suitcase and Abby's folder of drawings. Rebecca held one daughter's hand, Abby held the other's. It was a small procession, but one full of meaning, of victory, of renewed hope. Bye, hospital! Chloe waved enthusiastically at the building as they walked out the main door. Thank you for letting me get better. Thank you for taking care of me. Benjamin laughed at the girl's natural spontaneity and gratitude. In the parking lot, he helped the family get into the car, carefully fastening Chloe's seatbelt. She insisted on sitting in the front seat, to see everything better after so long. Where exactly are we going? Benjamin asked, starting the engine. Rebecca gave him the address, a simple neighborhood on the north side, 20 minutes from the hospital. Throughout the drive, Chloe didn't stop talking for a second, pointing at everything she saw out the window as if she were discovering the world for the first time. Look at the birds flying. Look at that blue house with flowers. Look at the dog running. Look at the kids playing in the park. She commented on everything with contagious enthusiasm. She's very excited, Abby explained to Benjamin, smiling. She hasn't been out of the hospital for 2.5 months. Okay, it's like everything is new. It's completely normal to be like this after being hospitalized for so long, Benjamin replied. But inside he was deeply moved by Chloe's pure and genuine joy in rediscovering the world. When they arrived at their street, Benjamin understood a lot about this family. It was a quiet street with small but well-kept houses. Their house had a light blue painted iron gate, a small garden with colorful flowers, and a porch with 2 white plastic chairs. This is it, Chloe shouted, almost jumping out of the car. My house, my home. They all went inside together. The house was modest but cozy, a small living room with a 2-seater sofa, an old but working television, a light wood coffee table. It was impeccably clean and organized, and there were Abby's drawings taped to the refrigerator and some family photos on the walls. Sorry if it's not much, Rebecca said, a little embarrassed. It's not a big house, but it's our home. It's perfect, Rebecca, Benjamin replied with complete sincerity. It's a real home. full of love and affection. Chloe ran to the room she shared with Abby, shouting with joy as she rediscovered her dolls, toys, and books. Abby ran after her, eager to show her everything she had organized and prepared, especially for her sister's return. "Please sit, make yourself at home." Rebecca gestured to the sofa for Benjamin. "I'll make some fresh coffee and cut the chocolate cake I made yesterday, especially to celebrate Chloe's return." "You don't have to go to any trouble, Rebecca." "It's no trouble at all. It's the least I can do after everything." Benjamin sat on the comfortable sofa and looked around attentively. The walls had photos of the family at various moments: a smiling pregnant Rebecca, the girls as babies, happy moments from birthdays and holidays. He noticed there were no photos of the girls' father anywhere. On the coffee table, there was a small, well-worn Bible, clear evidence of Rebecca's deep faith. In the corner of the room, an old sewing machine and some folded fabrics, probably how Rebecca supplemented her income from selling cakes. "Benjamin, come see our room," Chloe shouted excitedly from the hallway. He stood up and went to the girls' quantum room. It was small but organized, with a wooden bunk bed, a simple wardrobe, and shelves filled with children's books and Abby's art supplies. "Look at my bed," Chloe pointed proudly to the bottom bunk. "And look how many new drawings Abby made while I was in the hospital." The walls were completely covered with new drawings. Colorful flowers, houses with gardens, happy families, huge rainbows, and in several of them, a man in a suit who clearly represented Benjamin. "Did Abby draw you in all of these?" "In almost all of them," Chloe replied, pointing. "She said you were a real part of our family, so you had to be in the family drawings too." Benjamin felt something deep stir in his chest. Being represented in those innocent, love-filled drawings meant more than any million-dollar contract he had ever signed. "Do you like the new drawings?" Abby asked, appearing at the door with a hopeful smile. "I love them. You have an incredible talent, Abby. When I grow up, I'm going to be a real artist. And I'm going to make a giant painting of our family to hang in the living room. I'll want to buy the very first painting you make." Rebecca appeared at the bedroom door, smiling. "The coffee is ready on the table, and the cake too. Let's celebrate." They returned to the living room where Rebecca had lovingly set the small table. Homemade chocolate cake with frosting, hot fragrant coffee and fresh orange juice for the girls. "This cake looks like it's the most delicious in the world," Benjamin commented, admiring it. "It's Mommy's specialty," Abby said with pride. "It's the cake she sells to earn money to take care of us." "Abby," Rebecca blushed a little. There's nothing wrong with saying that," Benjamin reassured her warmly. "May I try some?" The cake was truly delicious, soft, flavorful, moist, made with simple ingredients, but a lot of love. Benjamin ate 2 generous slices, sincerely praising every bite. "This is incredible, Rebecca. You have a very special talent for baking." "Thank you," she smiled, more relaxed. "It's a recipe I learned from my mother. It was her favorite cake." They spent the entire afternoon at the house, living simple but precious moments. Chloe showed Benjamin all her toys, told him the story of each doll, each book, each special object. Abby organized a complete exhibition of her drawings in the living room, explaining each one in meticulous detail. "This one is you at the hospital, taking care of Chloe with love." She pointed to one drawing. "This is you bringing yummy food every night. This is you crying with joy when Chloe woke up and got better." Benjamin looked at each drawing with genuine and deep emotion. He saw his journey through the pure eyes of a child, from stranger to friend, from friend to family, from a lost man to a transformed man. "You've documented our entire story, Abby. I wanted to save every important moment, so we never forget how we met and how we became a family." As the sun began to set, painting the sky orange and pink, Benjamin realized he had spent the entire day there. He hadn't thought once about work, meetings, money, or problems. He had simply lived simple, precious moments with people he truly loved. "I think I need to get going," he said, looking at his watch reluctantly. Already, Chloe pouted, holding his arm. You just got here. I've been here for over 5 hours, little one. But I wanted you to stay here with us forever. Benjamin knelt on the floor, getting to Chloe's level. I can't stay forever, but I can come whenever you want to see me. Every day. If you want, every day. Chloe smiled and hugged him with all her strength. I love you so much, Benjamin. I love you so much too, little one. Abby came over and joined the warm hug. I love you too, forever. And I love you both. More than anything in this world, Rebecca approached, tears shining in her eyes. Mr. Benjamin, how can I thank you for everything you've done for our family? You don't need to thank me for anything, Rebecca. You've given me much more than I've given you. What did we give you? Benjamin looked around the simple house filled with true love. He looked at the 2 girls who had completely changed his life. He looked at Rebecca, who was raising her daughters alone with such dignity and courage. You gave me a real family. You gave me a purpose in life. You gave me back the faith I thought I had lost forever. And you gave us Chloe's life back. You gave us hope when we had none left. No, Rebecca. Benjamin shook his head with conviction. You gave me my life back. When he left the house and got into his car, Benjamin sat still for a few long minutes. He looked at the house through the window, seeing the lights on in the rooms, the shadows of the girls playing in the living room, Rebecca tidying up the kitchen. It was a perfect family, a dedicated and strong mother, 2 loving and special daughters, a home full of affection, faith and hope, and for a few precious hours he had been a real part of it. But as he drove slowly back to his empty apartment, Benjamin had a clear and painful realization. He loved that family more than anything in the world. He had been profoundly transformed by it, but deep down, he knew he didn't truly belong to it. He was a cherished visitor, a special friend, someone who would always be welcome. But Rebecca was young, beautiful, strong. She deserved to find someone to start a new life with. The girls deserved a father who was present, not a 42-year-old man who came into their lives by chance. He had saved Chloe, yes, but in the end, he didn't belong to that family. He had been profoundly transformed by it, but he wasn't a permanent part of it. It was a sad but also liberating realization, because even though he didn't belong, he had gained something precious and eternal. He had learned to love again. He had rediscovered his lost humanity. He had discovered that life was worth living when lived for others. And that, Benjamin realized with clarity, was the greatest victory of all. 3 weeks had passed since Chloe's discharge. Benjamin had settled into a routine he never imagined having, leaving work and going straight to that little house that had become his safe harbor. It was a Friday afternoon when he arrived carrying treats for the girls. Chloe was completely recovered, running and playing like any healthy child. She was a miracle in the form of a little girl. Abby opened the door with a special sparkle in her eyes. "Hi, Benjamin. I have a surprise for you." She led him into the house. Rebecca was in the kitchen. Chloe was flipping through a book on the sofa. "Benjamin!" Chloe ran to hug him. "I didn't have to take any medicine today." "I'm completely healed." Benjamin knelt and hugged the girl, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "That's wonderful, little one. You're so strong." "Can I show him the surprise now?" Abby asked eagerly. She ran to the bedroom and returned, carrying a larger sheet of paper folded carefully. She sat next to Benjamin and slowly unfolded the drawing. "Kyat, I made this special drawing for you." Benjamin looked at it and felt his heart race. It was different from all the others. It showed the living room of their house, with the table set for dinner. Rebecca was serving cake. Chloe was smiling with a piece in her hand. Abby was showing off a drawing. And Benjamin was there, sitting in a chair decorated with flowers, with a plate of cake and a huge smile. Above the chair, Abby had written, "Our special friend forever." "It's beautiful, Abby. Very beautiful. Do you know why I drew it like this?" Abby held his hand with her small ones. "Because I understood something important. You're not our dad, are you? And you're not our brother either. Benjamin's chest tightened. No, Abby, I'm not. But you're something even more special, she smiled. You will always be our friend. The words hit Benjamin like rays of sunshine. He looked at the drawing again, seeing himself depicted not as family but as something equally precious, a special friend. It's true, Benjamin. Chloe came closer. You'll be our friend forever, right? Benjamin held the drawing with trembling hands, tears forming in his eyes. Always, I will always be your friend. During dinner, Benjamin watched the family with new eyes. He saw Rebecca talking about her day, the girls competing to speak first, laughter echoing through the small house filled with love. And he was there, participating, being included, not as an intruder, but as a dear friend who would always have a place at that table. When night fell, the girls hugged him at the door. See you tomorrow, our special friend, Abby said. See you tomorrow, little ones. Rebecca walked him to the gate. These girls love you in such a pure way. You're a part of our life now, and you're a part of mine, forever. In the car, Benjamin looked at the drawing one last time. He saw himself as a special friend, and finally understood that was exactly what he was meant to be. He didn't need to be a father or a relative. Being this family's special friend was a gift greater than any other role. As he drove through the lit-up streets, Benjamin thought quietly to himself, I thought I was helping you, but in truth, you were the ones who helped me. It was true, completely true. He had entered their lives thinking he would be the savior. But he had been saved by them, saved from bitterness, from emptiness, from a life without purpose. Two blonde girls had given him back his humanity. A brave mother had shown him the true meaning of strength. A simple family had taught him that love is built day by day, gesture by gesture. When he got home, Benjamin taped the drawing to his refrigerator. For the first time in 3 years, he prayed before going to sleep, not asking for things but giving thanks. He gave thanks for having found his faith again, for discovering the value of living for the good of others, for learning that the greatest riches are found in the smiles of children and sincere hugs. The next morning, Benjamin woke up a different person. He was no longer the bitter man who had lost his faith. He was someone who had found a new purpose, to be the best friend that family could ever have. When he looked in the mirror, he saw something he hadn't seen in years, a happy man who knew exactly what his place in the world was. His place was at a small table in a simple house, being called special friend by the people he loved most in the world. It was, without a doubt, the happiest ending he could have imagined.